At the end of your life, you will never regret not having passed one more test, winning one more verdict, or not closing one more deal. You will regret time not spent with a husband, a child, a friend, or a parent.
There is more to life than work. Joining us right now, we've got Mark Steyn, who's joining us.
Working?
He is working, but not very hard.
No.
Mark,
8 days a year, I think. Something like that.
One thing about the Bushes, the Bush families, they were classy. They are a classy family. And she's the leader.
Well, that's true, but she actually had a dignity about her. She was secure in her sense of herself. She didn't think first ladies needed to be hip on pop culture or anything like that. She knew who she was. But at the same time, she was also very emotional. I remember a friend of mine back in New Hampshire who was 8 months pregnant, and Barbara Bush rubbed her belly in a very affectionate way, which is an intimate thing to do. And ever after, my pal drove around with an "I miss Barbara Bush" bumper sticker on the back of her mommy van. But the thing about that is it's the balance. People want a dignified first lady who also connects with you individually, and she found that sweet spot in a way that very few first ladies have done in recent times.
I have a theory on that, and that is because if you look at her, her upbringing in Midland, Texas, when she became a mom, and raising her kids, people think the Bushes are just loaded; they have tons of money. Yeah. But they had a middle-class upbringing. She was driving to Little League practice. Her car was beat up, 6 kids, husband working 2 or 3 jobs. She can relate to the average American, even though she's coming from a very prestigious family.
Yeah, she was a blue blood who was not isolated from the currents of American life. And I love the way she just wore what she wore. Nobody ever said, well, at this state banquet for the King of Sweden, will she be wearing Versace or will she be wearing Prada? She just wore what she wore.
A blue dress and pearls.
Yeah, and the way her, as I understand it, which is a tragic story, her hair turned prematurely grey when her daughter died, and she kept it. She kept it like that. It's absolutely remarkable, actually, at that level in American public life, to be so secure in your sense of yourself.
To embrace who you are and be okay with it and not try to change yourself. I felt like, too, she was a strong woman. In that generation, I feel like they were more subservient, and she just was so strong, and I feel like the whole family looked to her. She was stalwart and strong and had her own opinions and beliefs. Yeah,
it's because they made and you have to feel, the pain of her husband, because no matter how old someone is and how good a life they've led, to be without someone for the first time in 3/4 of a century.
Today's the first full day.
Is an absolutely terrible thing. They looked at like a kind of rather odd couple because she went prematurely grey and maternal, and he still had, until comparatively recently, that sort of goofy, gangly, boyish,
jumping out of planes.
Yeah, slightly inarticulate thing. She was, and so in a sense, that maternal role, that kind of mother of the nation type thing she had going on, you could actually physically see it, even when he was vice president. Right. It was there.
So, Mark, there's no question about it. This is the #1 story, but the James Comey book tour can't be ignored. Last night, he took the tie off and wanted to try to be the cool guy with Stephen Colbert, who, I don't know if you know, tends to not like the president. See how he was welcomed and see his theory on why President Trump tweets about him.
He's tweeted at me probably 50 times. I've been gone for a year. I'm like a breakup he can't get over.
You think he's describing that accurately?
No, I think James Comey he is dating himself, and I think that's actually the problem. It's that
dating himself.
He's basically in love with himself. Lanny Davis, who I don't agree on with anything, but he said on your show, it's what was that? I think that's Lanny's Carmen Miranda impression. I love me very much, and that's basically. It's actually, it's again, going back to what we were talking about with Barbara Bush, it's about seamliness in a role. How this guy ever became director of the FBI he seems psychologically unfit, and this whole, he's interested in himself. I think this book will be one of those kind of 4-week phenomena that's like forgotten.
Although it's affecting the investigation. We'll talk about that another time.
It's affecting the president because obviously he's impacted by it. He tweeted this morning about Mr. Comey. Here it is. Slippery James Comey, the worst FBI director in history, was not fired because of the phony Russia investigation, where, by the way, there was no collusion except by the Dems.
Yeah, anyone would have fired him. If Hillary had won, she'd have fired him. If Jeb had won, he'd have fired him. If Bernie had won, he'd have fired Comey. The real question here is why Obama didn't fire Comey.
You know what? He seems to be enjoying this, though, doesn't he? No tie, comes out there. Now he's just, all these interviews are becoming easier and easier. We're going to interview him, though. Brett Baer's interviewing him. It's going to air next week.
Well,
We'll ask him some tough questions.
I dispute that simply in 2018 not wearing a necktie is enough to transform a self-obsessed, narcissistic dork into the biggest hipster on the planet.
How do you really feel?
No, I don't. I'd take my tie off if it was that easy, but sometimes you got to know. Yeah, and that comes back to what we were saying about Barbara Bush. You've got to be secure in the sense of, it's pathetic to see, you know, people used to mock these apocryphal stories about J. Edgar Hoover wearing a dress. J. Edgar Hoover isn't dumb enough to think, oh, simply by taking my tie off, I'm a rock star. That's ridiculous.
All right, the great Mike.
Good point.
Steyn.
We have not talked about her, J. Edgar Hoover wearing a dress in a while.
Well,
it was good.
That's an apocryphal. I don't believe that's ever been. When James Comey comes out in a dress, I'll take an interest in his book.
Absolutely.
That will be a Fox News alert.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.